Well, joining me now from Warwick University is Dr. Ben Margulies, who's an expert in US politics. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Margulies. Just how unusual is it to have demonstrations like this after a disputed election result? And indeed, are these protests really any bigger than what we've seen in the past?
Well, the only recent historical example I can think of that would be comparable would be the election of George W. Bush in 2000. And in that case, there were also protests at that time. His inauguration attracted large protests. And really, so this doesn't really surprise me. It also wasn't surprising given the wave of protests that American cities have been seeing in the last couple of years, mostly relating to police violence, which may also explain the fairly aggressive police tactics that you referred to in Oakland. But no, this strikes me as perfectly normal.
What it also underlines, of course, is the different demographics and different backgrounds of the people who voted for the president-elect and for Mrs. Clinton.
Well, yes. I mean, the protests are primarily in urban areas. Of course, urban areas are more likely to see protests anyway for geographical reasons. But I mean, the fact that it does map very well on the urban-rural divide, which this election has excavated, and also, of course, on the more obvious racial and, I guess you could say, values, liberal, conservative, authoritarian, liberal sort of dimensions, divides in American politics. So, yes, I mean, it certainly highlights the sort of divisions that this election has made so visible.
We're also hearing about quite a strong backlash in academia on the campuses of American universities.
Again, there's been a lot of campus protests around issues, especially of racism and political, what is its opponents usually call political correctness. That's not surprising. There have also been reports of racist incidents by people claiming to be Trump supporters or by people assumed to be motivated by Trump's victory. Again, that kind of is a continuation of certain themes or phenomena that we've been seeing on college campuses for a while now. So, I mean, the election didn't produce these divisions. They're simply being activated, energized by the fact of his election and by the fact, and possibly also by the fact that Trump lost the popular vote, which is even more disappointing to the Democratic camp.
What do you make of Donald Trump's reaction given informally in a couple of tweets overnight? One of them blaming what he called professional protesters stirred up by the media, but then the other one actually saying more or less fair enough, they're exercising their right to free speech.
I mean, it's interesting. His first tweet is very much in line with this sort of populist framing, populist theme from the campaign itself, which tended to attack elites, the media being a large part of that elite, and also those groups that Trump's voters found threatening, among them protesters. The Black Lives Matter movement was highly controversial throughout the campaign. So that's expected. His second tweet is interesting. It's not clear whether he's trying to pitch himself to a different part of his coalition, maybe the other Republican voters, the wealthier ones who voted for him more out of party loyalty and expect him to be a unifier. It may be a tactical decision, or conversely, he may be torn between his campaign mode, which was fairly, with this fairly constant messaging, and the need to be president, which is quite novel. And he might be trying to actually inhabit the role of unifier, which, stereotypically is what the winning candidate is supposed to be. The whole speech about, I'll be president for all Americans, though it was really surprising to hear from Trump, is actually what most victorious American presidential candidates say.
Dr. Margulies, thank you very much indeed for joining us.